My name is Charlotte. I am 55 years old, and I have spent the last 33 years of my life being a mother. Tonight, on what should have been a celebration, that identity shattered into dust at my feet. The chocolate cake, his favorite since he was 6, sat in the center of the table. 2 gifts wrapped in paper with little rockets on it, just like when he was a boy, waited beside his plate. I had even made the pot roast, the one with the gravy that takes 3 hours. The house smelled like love and patience. I smoothed the old lace tablecloth, the one my own mother gave me, and checked the clock for the 10th time. He was late. When his headlights finally washed across the kitchen window, my heart did that little lift it always did. My Lucas was home, but the man who walked in carried the cold air of the city on his coat and a distracted tension in his shoulders. He gave me a quick, dry kiss on the cheek, his eyes already scanning a notification on his phone. Sorry, Mom. Traffic was a beast, and this new merge protocol at work is eating my brain. It's all right, honey. You're here now. We sat. He talked about his projects, about algorithms and market saturation. His words were efficient sharp. My questions about his friends, about whether he was eating well, seemed to land softly and roll away unanswered. The space between us felt wide, filled with a static I did not understand. Then it happened. I mentioned that Mrs. Henderson from down the road had asked me to restore her mother's wedding Bible, a beautiful old thing from 1920. I must have sounded proud because he sighed a long, weary sound that seemed to carry the weight of my irrelevance. Mom, you need to get on this messaging app. I sent you the link. It's impossible to coordinate anything with you. I told you, sweetheart, my phone works just fine for calls, and I like the sound of your voice. He put his fork down. The clink was terribly final. That's the whole problem. You're stuck in this house, in these routines. Sometimes it feels like you've never actually done anything for me. You're just here, in this house, living in the past. The words did not feel like words. They felt like a physical void opening up beneath my chair. All the air left the room. All the light from the candles seemed to get sucked into that void. 33 years of small, endless sacrifices, of quiet choices made for his well-being, evaporated into nothingness in a single sentence. I looked at my son's face, expecting to see regret, a flicker of knowing he had gone too far. I saw only frustrated conviction. A strange, calm numbness spread through me. I did not cry. I did not argue. I simply looked at him and smiled a small, sad smile of absolute comprehension. I see, I said, my voice disturbingly, even to my own ears. Happy birthday, Lucas. He shifted, a flash of discomfort crossing his features, but it was quickly buried. Look, I didn't mean... It's just reality, Mom. I have to head back early tomorrow. Big presentation. Of course, I said. I'll clean up. Before I go on, before I tell you what happened after that door closed behind him, I want to ask you something. Have you ever poured your heart into something, into someone, only to have them look right through your effort as if it were empty air? If you know that particular quiet ache, then you understand why I did what I did next. And if you are just finding this channel, consider pulling up a chair. There is always room here. Let me know in the comments where you are joining us from today. And if you want to walk this path with me, be sure to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps. The sound of his car engine faded down the street, swallowed by the deep night silence. I sat at the table for a long time, staring at the cake. The frosting had little sweaty beads on it. The 2 rocket-wrapped gifts looked foolish, now relics of a child who no longer existed. I reached out and touched the lace of the tablecloth, tracing a delicate flower with my fingertip. My mother had told me this cloth was for special occasions. She never said what to do when a special occasion turned to ash in your mouth. The numbness began to recede, not into anger, but into a cold, clear stream of memory. It was not a torrent, but a deliberate flow showing me scenes I had packed away. I saw a small boy with hair the color of wheat sitting at this very table, his little brow furrowed in torment. The letters on the page danced and flipped for him. The school had used words like slow and unmotivated. I saw myself at the library, hauling home stacks of books on dyslexia, my own heart pounding with a fear I refused to show him. I remembered the sound of his frustrated tears against my shoulder and the feel of his small, tense body as I held him. We will figure this out together. I had whispered into his hair, a promise that became my life's work. Nights became drills of phonics on index cards. I learned about colored overlays and special fonts. I gave up my part-time job at the art gallery downtown, The one place that felt like mine because the tutor was expensive and the sessions were during my shifts. Samuel. God rest his soul was driving long hauls, then trying to make ends meet. It was just me and Lucas under the yellow glow of the kitchen light wrestling with words until they finally mercifully settled down and made sense for him. The memory of his first real victory was so vivid it stole my breath. He was 8. He read a full page from Frog and Toad Are Friends without a single stumble. His face flushed with triumph and disbelief looked up at me. "I did it, Mom." We had ice cream for dinner that night, laughing in our pajamas. That victory was mine too, but I never said that. The present rushed back in, the quiet house, the uneaten cake, the words. "You never actually did anything for me." A profound shift occurred inside me. It was not breaking, it was settling, like sediment finding its final place on a riverbed. The love was still there, a massive, unmovable stone, but the need for him to see it, that was gone. It had been eroded by his dismissal. I stood up. My legs were steady. I cleared the table with methodical movements, washing the good plates we never used, putting the pot roast in a container for Marjorie next door. I wrapped the cake and placed it in the fridge. I put the 2 gifts unopened on the counter. Then I turned off the kitchen light and walked upstairs, not to my bedroom, but to the small, cluttered room I called my study. In the corner, under a stack of old quilts, was a trunk. Not a fancy one. A simple cedar-lined hope chest my grandfather had made. It smelled of wood and time. I had not opened it in months. My hands were not shaking as I lifted the quilts away and knelt before it. The brass latch was cool to the touch. I clicked it open. The past, carefully preserved, breathed out at me. This was not a collection of junk. This was a curated archive of a boy becoming a man, assembled by the only witness who cared enough to save the evidence. On top lay a crude drawing of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, labeled in green crayon, Lucas Rar. Beneath it, every report card, every clumsy clay sculpture from summer camp, every first draft of a school essay written in his now confident script. Ticket stubs from movies, a pressed corsage from a middle school dance, the first dollar he ever earned mowing a lawn laminated. And photographs, hundreds of them. Him blowing out candles, riding a bike with training wheels, holding up a fish, grinning in a graduation gown. Samuel was in many of them, his arm around our boy. My own face was mostly behind the camera, but that was only the physical layer. For the past 10 years since Samuel passed and the silence in the house grew heavier, I had begun another project, a secret one. With the careful hands I used to restore old books, I had gently cleaned, scanned, and digitally repaired every single item in this chest. I taught myself photo editing software, watching online tutorials with headphones on. I bought a professional grade scanner with money saved from my restoration work. Page by page, drawing by drawing, I had built a digital museum, a private website hidden behind a password where every item was photographed in clean light, given a date, and accompanied by a note. Not a novel, just a line or two. The story behind the object. The day he finally read Frog and Toad all the way through, we had ice cream for dinner. This was the fish he was so proud of. He insisted we eat it. It tasted terrible. We ordered pizza. His first heartbreak. He didn't want to talk. We just sat on this porch swing for 2 hours. It was my love letter to his life. A gift for the future, for when he might have children of his own and want to show them. I imagined him discovering it one day, perhaps after I was gone, and finally understanding the texture of his own childhood. And he never asked, not once. When I spoke of restoring a water-damaged map from the 1800s, he saw a hobby for a lonely woman. When I mentioned the hours a delicate binding required, he heard wasted time. His world was made of code and scalability and disruptive innovation. Mine was made of preservation, of saving fragile things from being lost forever. We were speaking different languages, and he had decided mine was obsolete. I reached into the chest, past the layers of paper memories, and felt for the large manila envelope at the very bottom. I pulled it out. Inside were the documents that represented another kind of love, a practical steel reinforced love. The paid-off mortgage statement for this house. Samuel's life insurance policy had taken care of it. My own savings account passbook, a modest sum meticulously gathered from my restoration commissions, and a simple notarized letter from my lawyer. This house was mine, free and clear. As I held those papers, the final piece of my resolve clicked into place. He wanted tangible proof. something he could understand in his world of assets and results. Fine. I would give him the most tangible thing I had, and I would give him the key to everything else. But he would have to find it on his own. The quiet of the house was no longer oppressive. It was my ally. I moved through it with a purpose that felt both ancient and entirely new. I went to my desk and took out 2 sheets of my best linen paper and my fountain pen, the one I used for writing letters to distant relatives. The ink was a deep, permanent blue. The first letter was for Lucas. It needed to be short. Any emotion from me would be read as manipulation. It had to be factual, calm, and utterly final. Lucas, I wrote, you are a man now, and you believe you see the world clearly. You said I never did anything for you. Perhaps you are right in the way you measure things. This house is paid for. It is yours. I am leaving it to you free and clear. Consider it the one tangible thing I have done. But a house is just wood and paint. The real gifts, the ones made of time and love, are in the chest in the attic. The password to the website is your childhood dog's name. I am going away for a while. Do not look for me. Be well. Mom. I read it over. It was perfect. It gave him everything and nothing. It handed him the kingdom and showed him the door through which the queen had exited. I folded it neatly and slid it into an envelope. I wrote his name on it. The second letter was for Marjorie. That one could have feeling. Marjorie, at 78, had seen enough of life to understand silences. Dearest Marjorie, I wrote, I need to take a journey. I am not ill or in trouble. I simply need space to breathe a different air. I have left Lucas the house. Would you be an angel and keep an eye on it? There is $200 in this envelope for you to have someone mow the lawn. I will be in touch when I am settled. Thank you for being my rock all these years. Love, Charlotte. I placed Lucas's letter on the kitchen table, leaning it against the uneaten cake. I put Marjorie's in my pocket. Then I went to my bedroom and packed a single medium-sized suitcase. I took practical clothes, my most essential book restoration tools, a few beloved novels, and the small framed photograph of Samuel Lucas and me at the beach, the one where we are all sunburned and laughing. I did not pack a single memento from the chest. That was his to discover now. I changed into comfortable traveling clothes and looked at myself in the mirror. A 55-year-old woman with lines around her eyes from smiling and squinting at fine print with hair that was more silver than brown. I did not look like someone about to start an adventure. I looked like someone who had finally reached the end of a very long, very patient road. I carried my suitcase downstairs and left it by the front door. It was 3 a.m. The world was asleep. I walked next door to Marjorie's little cottage and slid the envelope with the money and the note through her mail slot. I knew she would find it with her morning tea and understand immediately. She would not call the police. She would water my ferns. Then I walked back, picked up my suitcase, and stepped out onto the front porch, locking the door behind me. I did not look back. I walked the 6 blocks to the bus station, the wheels of my suitcase making a lonely, rhythmic sound on the pavement. The night air was cool and clean. I bought a one-way ticket to a coastal town I had secretly researched online, a place with a quiet library and a weekly farmer's market. I had rented a small cottage there for 1 month using my savings. It was not an escape. It was a strategic retreat. As the bus pulled away, carrying me into the dark, I felt it. Not grief, not anger. It was a vast, hollowing sadness, yes, but beneath it was something solid, the profound relief of truth. The truth that my love no longer required his understanding to exist. It simply was. And now, so was I. The dawn was breaking in streaks of pink and orange over the ocean when I finally reached Seabrook. The cottage was exactly as pictured, small, white clapboard with a blue door and a view of the dunes from the tiny back deck. The key was under the mat. The silence inside was different from the silence of my house. This was a new silence, empty of memory, full of possibility. It smelled of salt air and clean paint. I unpacked my few things, made a cup of tea, and sat at the little table by the window. I had turned off my phone after texting Marjorie a simple "arrived safe." Now I left it off. The world I had left behind could spin without me for a while. Meanwhile, back in the house I had called home for 30 years, the sun was also rising. Lucas, as he told me much later, had stayed at a friend's place in the city after leaving my house, his mind churning with a low-grade irritation. He felt misunderstood. He felt I was being dramatic. He needed to pick up some files he had left in his old bedroom before his big presentation, so he drove back just after 7 in the morning, expecting to find me puttering in the kitchen, maybe a little cold, but present. The house felt too still. He called out, "Mom!" No answer. He assumed I was upstairs or had gone for an early walk. Then he saw the envelope on the table, his name written in my precise script next to the completely intact chocolate cake. He told me his first emotion was annoyance. A letter, really. He tore it open and read it. Then he read it again. The phrase, "the house is paid for," registered, causing a jolt of surprise. But it was the next lines that froze him. "The real gifts are in the chest in the attic. The password is your childhood dog's name. I am going away for a while. Do not look for me." A cold finger of dread traced his spine. He took the stairs 2 at a time, bursting into the attic. The trunk was there under the quilts, just as I had left it. He threw the quilts aside and opened it. The sight of his own life meticulously preserved hit him with a physical force. He knelt there, pulling out drawings, report cards, the laminated dollar bill. He recognized each item, but seen together like this, in this sacred repository, they were overwhelming. This was not a box of old junk. This was a shrine, a catalog of devotion. He did not understand yet. He felt a rising, panicky confusion. Why had she kept all this? Where did she go? He called my phone. It went straight to voicemail. He called again and again. It was then that he heard the gentle knock on the back door. It was Marjorie, holding a warm blueberry muffin on a plate. Her kind, wrinkled face was solemn. "Marjorie, where's my mother? What's going on?" Lucas demanded, the letter crumpled in his fist. Marjorie stepped inside, her eyes taking in the scene, the cake, the open attic stairs, his frantic expression. She placed the muffin on the counter. "She's gone somewhere safe, Lucas. She left me a note. She needs time." "Why?" "Because of what I said." "That's ridiculous. It was just a conversation." Marjorie fixed him with a look that had silenced classrooms of children for decades. "Sit down, young man," she said, not unkindly. He sat deflated. "Your mother," Marjorie began choosing her words with care, "has spent a lifetime doing things for you that you were never meant to see. Did you know she taught herself how to rewire a dyslexic brain because the school was ready to give up on you? Did you know she sat with you for 3 hours every night for 2 years with those flashcards? She gave up her job at the gallery. She gave up her evenings. She gave up pieces of herself so quietly you never even heard them hit the floor." Lucas stared at her, his arguments dying in his throat. "And after your father died," Marjorie continued, her voice softening, "this trunk became her project. She called it her love work. She spent thousands of hours scanning, fixing, typing notes. She built a whole website, Lucas, a secret one, for you." "A website?" He whispered the word, sounding absurd in the context of his mother. "Yes, the password is your dog's name. You should look at it." Marjorie led him to the old desktop computer in my study. It whirred to life. He found the bookmark, a simple label that said, "For Lucas." He clicked it. The site asked for a password. His hands were trembling as he typed, "Buster," the name of the golden retriever we had when he was 10. The page loaded. It was clean, elegant, simple to navigate. Years listed down the side. He clicked on age 8. There was the scanned drawing of the Tyrannosaurus. Below it, my note, "Lucas drew this the day he finally read a whole page aloud without stumbling. We celebrated with ice cream for dinner. He told me the T-Rex was happy for him." Lucas made a sound, a choked gasp. He scrolled. A photo of him holding the terrible-tasting fish. My note, "His first catch. He was so proud. We tried to cook it. It was inedible. We laughed until we cried and then ordered pizza. The joy on his face was worth every bite." He kept scrolling year after year. Every milestone, every ordinary moment annotated with my quiet, observant love. He saw his life not as he remembered it, a blur of school and friends and his own ambitions, but as it was witnessed, through a lens of unwavering, detailed, selfless attention. He put his head in his hands. The presentation, the merger, his important city life, it all shriveled into insignificance. The magnitude of his error, of his breathtaking blindness, crashed down on him with the weight of the world. He had been so busy building his own future, he had never turned around to see the foundation upon which he stood. And now, the architect of that foundation was gone. For 2 days, Lucas was a ghost in my house. He canceled his presentation, citing a family emergency. He barely ate. He wandered from room to room, touching things, the worn arm of the sofa where I read to him, the notch on the doorframe marking his growth, the collection of sea glass on the windowsill I had gathered on our beach trips. Every object now spoke. It whispered of a love that had been in the very walls, in the air he breathed so constant he had forgotten to notice it. He tried to find me. He called every relative, every friend of mine he could remember. He drove to the few places he thought I might go. He came up empty. The complete absence of a digital trail, no social media posts, no credit card pings from familiar stores, frustrated his modern, connected mind. It was then he began to understand my world, the world of tangible things and unrecorded moments. I had vanished into the kind of quiet he could not scan or search. Marjorie was his only tether. She brought him soup and wise silence. She did not offer my location, but she agreed to be a conduit. "If you have something to say to her, write it down. I will make sure she gets it," Marjorie said. So Lucas began to write. Not emails or texts, long, rambling letters on legal pads filled with apologies that sounded hollow even to him, with explanations that crumbled under the weight of the evidence on the website. He filled pages, then crumpled them. He was trying to fix with words a damage wrought by words, and it felt hopeless. One afternoon, sitting at my desk in the study, he noticed something. Next to the computer was a beautifully restored leather-bound journal from the 1890s. I had been working on it before he came for his birthday. The binding was tight, the gilded edges glimmering. He opened it carefully. The pages were filled with elegant, spidery handwriting, the story of a sea captain's wife. In the margins, in my own neat pencil script, were my restoration notes: weak hinge reinforced with Japanese tissue, foxing on PP 4548 treat with calcium carbonate, missing fragment recreate from period text. He stared at my notes. This was not a hobby. This was a craft, a science, a language of care and resurrection. He thought of the website of the scanned drawings where I had digitally repaired tears and smoothed stains. The same hands, the same mind preserving the past, other people's pasts and his own. It was all connected. It was all an act of love for things that could be lost. A new idea, fragile but determined, began to form in him. Apologies were not enough. He needed to speak my language. He needed to add to the archive. He went back to the website. Using his skills, he began to improve it. He cleaned up the code, made the image loading faster, added a search function. Then he started adding his own artifacts. He went to his apartment in the city and brought back boxes of his own things: college acceptance letters, photos from his first startup job, a ticket stub from a concert he took his first serious girlfriend to. He scanned them, uploaded them to the appropriate years on the site, and wrote his own notes. Under a photo of his college graduation, he wrote, "Mom made this dress she's wearing. She was up all night finishing the hem." I didn't notice then. I notice now. Under a scan of his first business card, I thought this was the start of my real life. I didn't realize my real life had already been built around me, silent and strong. It was awkward at first, this unlearning of his own narrative. But as he worked, a strange peace settled over him. He was not just saying sorry, he was bearing witness retroactively to his own life. And in doing so, he was finally seeing me. After a week of this, he had something he wanted to send, not another letter of apology. He recorded an audio file. He sat in the quiet of my living room and he read aloud, his voice, tentative at first, then growing stronger, the entire story of Frog and Toad are friends. The same story he had conquered at 8 years old. He did not edit out his pauses or the slight catch in his throat when he reached the final page. He saved the file, put it on a thumb drive, and gave it to Marjorie. "Please send this to her," was all he said. Life in Seabrook had a gentle healing rhythm. I woke to the sound of gulls. I spent my mornings working on a commission for the local library, repairing a water-damaged collection of maritime histories. In the afternoons, I walked the beach, collecting interesting shells and fragments of smooth glass. I made a few acquaintances: the librarian, the farmer who sold eggs, an elderly painter who lived down the lane. We spoke of the weather, of books, of the best way to stew apples. No one asked about my past. It was a gift. Marjorie forwarded Lucas's first letters. I read them, felt their anguish, and set them aside in a drawer. The words were still about him, his guilt, his need for absolution. They were a step, but not the step I needed. I needed him to arrive at a place where he saw me not just the shadow of his own mistake. Then the thumb drive arrived with Marjorie's note. He's trying Charlotte, in his way. Curiosity got the better of me. I plugged it into the small laptop I had brought. I opened the audio file. I saw its title, Frog and Toad at MP3. My breath hitched. I pressed play. And there it was, his voice. The voice of my little boy, now deepened by manhood but still carrying its unique timbre. He read slowly, carefully, giving Toad and Frog their distinct personalities. He stumbled over a word once and gave a soft, self-deprecating chuckle just like he used to. By the time he reached the end, my face was wet with tears. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition. For the first time in years, I heard him listening to the story, to the memory, and perhaps to the ghost of the mother who had first read it to him. That audio file was the turning point. It was not an apology. It was an offering, an attempt to speak my language, the language of time and attention. It was the first thing he had ever given me that required him to look back, not forward. I sat on my little blue deck that evening, watching the stars prick through the twilight. The hollow sadness was still there, but something else had taken root beside it. A tentative hope. Not for a return to what was, but for the possibility of something new. I realized I missed my garden. I missed the particular way the light fell through my kitchen window in the late afternoon. I missed the weight of my own history, even the painful parts. My retreat had served its purpose. I had found my own breath. Now it was time to see if we could breathe in the same space again without me suffocating. I did not call. I packed my suitcase again, left the cottage key on the table, and took the bus home. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. I arrived in the late afternoon. I saw my lawn had been mowed, the edges trimmed, Marjorie's work. I unlocked my front door. The house was clean, orderly. The cake was gone from the table. There was a fresh vase of daisies in the center. And there, at my desk in the study, sat Lucas. He was intent on the computer screen, his back to me. On the screen, I could see the website, and he was typing a note beneath a photograph I did not recognize, a picture of him and his college roommate looking young and foolish. I set my suitcase down softly. The floorboard creaked. He turned. The look on his face was one I will carry with me forever. Shock, then a flood of relief so profound it seemed to physically weaken him. Then raw, unvarnished shame. He stood up so quickly the chair scraped. Mom, it was just a breath. Lucas. He didn't run to hug me. He just stood there as if afraid his touch might break the moment. His eyes were red-rimmed. I found the chest, he said, his voice thick. I saw everything. I know, I said gently. Marjorie told me you'd been working on the site. He nodded, swallowing hard. I listened to the story, the frog and toad one. Thank you for sending it. It was the least I could do, he said, then winced at his own wording. No, that's not true. It was the only thing I could think of to do, to show you I was paying attention, finally. That was the phrase. Paying attention. It was the cornerstone that had been missing. We talked, then, really talked for the first time in a decade. He told me about the hours he spent going through the trunk, about the sickening realization that dawned on him as he read my notes. I told him about Seabrook, about the quiet, about why I had to leave. I didn't leave to punish you, Lucas. I explained, my voice calm. I left because my presence was allowing you to overlook me. You needed to see my life, my love for you, as a separate entity from me. You needed to encounter it in my absence. He understood. He finally understood. You didn't just do things for me, he said, tears spilling over now. You built the entire world I stood on, and I was too busy looking at my own reflection in the puddles to see the foundation. The house did not magically revert to what it was. How could it? A fundamental truth had been exposed, and we had to build our new relationship on that bedrock, not on the soft sand of assumption. Lucas went back to the city, but now he came home twice a month, not just on obligatory holidays. Our conversations changed. He asked about my restoration projects. He was genuinely fascinated when I explained how to mend vellum or remove a century-old wine stain from a love letter. He showed me the improvements he'd made to the website, and we spent an afternoon together scanning and adding a box of his father's old letters from the road. I did not go back to being just Mom, the ever-present background fixture. I was Charlotte, a woman with a craft, a history, and a newfound willingness to put herself first when it mattered. Lucas saw that. He respected it. He once joked, I think I had to lose you to finally find you. It was not a joke. It was the truth. The cedar chest was brought down from the attic and placed in a corner of the living room. It was no longer a secret. It was a shared history. We would sometimes open it together, pulling out an item at random, telling its story. The website became our ongoing project, a digital family history we both contributed to. He showed me how to back it up in 3 different places. This, he said, is the most important server I maintain. One Sunday afternoon, he was watching me gold tool a leather bookmark. My hands were steady, the tiny heated tools pressing delicate leaves into the surface. "You know," he said quietly, "all those years I thought your work was about clinging to the past. But it's not, is it?" I looked up. "What is it then?" "It's about making sure the past has a future. You take something fragile, something about to be lost forever, and you give it strength. You give it more time." He paused. "You did that for me. You took a little boy who was about to be lost in a system that didn't understand him, and you gave him the tools to build a future. You preserved me." I put my tool down. In that moment, the last fragment of the old hurt dissolved. He saw it. He saw the core of me. Not the martyr, not the nostalgic, but the restorer. We had found a new language, a hybrid of his digital fluency and my tactile wisdom. He helped me set up a simple online shop for my book restoration services, something I never would have dared on my own. I helped him understand why sometimes the slow, analog way of doing things like writing a letter or binding a book or planting a garden holds a value that efficiency can never replicate. The house is quiet again now, but it is a different kind of quiet. It is not the silence of being overlooked. It is the peaceful quiet of being seen finally for all that I was and all that I did. It is the quiet of mutual respect. Lucas still lives in his fast-paced world of code and venture capital, but now he carries a small digital key to that old wooden chest in his pocket everywhere he goes. He told me he looks at the site sometimes when he is stressed, not out of guilt, but for grounding, to remember where he came from. And I think maybe that was the point all along. Not to make him feel guilty, but to make him remember, and in remembering to finally see. My healing did not come from his apology, though that was a start. It came from my own decision to stop being invisible. It came from walking away from a role that had become a cage. It came from trusting that the love I had poured out for decades was real and substantial, whether it was acknowledged or not. And ultimately, it came from giving him the space and the shocking silence he needed to hear its echo. The lesson I learned is, this love does not have to be loud to be real. But sometimes those who benefit from it need a profound silence to finally hear its music. Do not be afraid to create that silence if you need to. Your worth is not measured by the volume of your sacrifice, but by the integrity of your heart. And sometimes the most powerful action is not a dramatic confrontation, but a quiet departure that allows the truth to speak for itself. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where someone failed to see your worth until you were no longer in the picture? Or perhaps you have been the one who, like Lucas, needed a wake-up call to appreciate a quiet, steadfast love. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories are what make this community so special. If this journey resonated with you, please give this video a like. It lets me know these conversations matter. And if you are not yet subscribed, I invite you to join us. There are many more stories of everyday courage and quiet healing to come. Thank you for listening, for sharing your time with me today. May you always have the courage to be seen and the wisdom to see those who love you. Take good care.